Dear Bhavani Shankar Das sir, sir, I request you to turn off your videos, please.
हेलो सर, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही सर, पता नहीं क्या प्रॉब्लम है।
Priti Bhatti sir, hello. Thank you.
हेलो सर, सर योर वॉइस इज नॉट क्लियर एंड योर वीडियो इज नॉट क्लियर।
ಏ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಸರ್, ಅವಾಗ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ. ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. Dear participants, we'll start the first session. Before we proceed with the session 1, I'd like to introduce the person of this session to all the participants. Vivek Pawar sir.
Yes.
Vivek Pawar sir.
Yes.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you very
now
well.
Next, you can start the session, sir.
Sure.
Dear participants, a very good morning, everyone. Once again, I request all the participants to please mute your mic and turn off your video. I take the pleasure to introduce Mr. Vivek Pawar sir to all the participants of the participants who are attending this faculty development. Shri Vivek Pawar is currently CEO, Managing Director, Deshpande Foundation, Chairman Emeritus, and founder of Sankalp Semiconductor. Deshpande Foundation is working in development sector to impact bottom of pyramid 1.1 billion people through agriculture, micro-entrepreneurship, and skilling for employability. He founded Sankalp in the year 2005, and over a span of 10 years, he has established multiple centers across India and world, such as Germany, Canada, California, and Texas, USA, including 4 across India. Currently, Sankalp with 900 plus engineers is a largest independent analog semiconductor design service provider company in the world and is being acquired by HCL. Some of the awards and recognition to the credit of Pawar sir is Deloitte selected Sankalp as Fast 50 tech companies in India in 2010 and 2011 with a growth of 200+% in last 2 years. Sankalp was selected by Red Herring as global top 100 tech companies in 2012. It was the only one semiconductor company to achieve this from Asia and Europe in 2012, and only one semiconductor company to achieve that ever from India at global level. STP Government of India awarded top IT exporter of Karnataka from 2009 till 2007. Magazine selected Sankalp as top 5 semicon startups in 2011. Frost and Sullivan Award for Competitive Strategy Leadership in the Semiconductor Design Market. Innovative Entrepreneur Award by TIE Hubli in 2010 at the hands of Narayana Murthy and Desh Deshpande. Vanijya Ratna Award from Karnataka Chamber of Commerce Hubli in 2014. Rajyotsava Award winner for Hubli Dharwad from HDMC 2012. Prior to Sankalp, Vivek worked in Texas Instruments India and USA for 15 years in various management positions and was responsible for developing global innovative chip products with many rewards and recognitions. Few of them are world's first integrated DSL that won the EDN Asia Award in 1999, world's first single chip DSL that won EDN World Award in 2003. Vivek has 3 patents and multiple international publications to his credit. Vivek completed BE from the College of Engineering Pune and MTech at IIT Kharagpur. It's a great pleasure and a blessing to have you with us, sir. Over to you, sir.
Sure. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm just sharing the slides. Just hold on. Background
Vivek, I'll share the screen.
Yeah, you can share the screen. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Just good afternoon, maybe now. And it's a pleasure to talk to all of you. What I'll do is I'll go through the slides. So Muzamil, can you present the slide?
I have shared, Vivek. I hope the screen is visible to all.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, great. So what I'll do is I'll just go to the next slide, Muzammil. I'll talk about Deshpande Foundation in 5 to 10 minutes. First, I'll skip through slides and then talk about leadership and excellence, question answer discussion. And then I'll talk about leadership at colleges. I'll discuss about what is leadership and how it can benefit everybody in their personal life as well as professional life. So next slide. So Deshpande Foundation was started by Gururaj Deshpande and Jayashree Deshpande. Both of them are in Boston, but they come from Hubli, Dharwad region. And to make an impact to India, they started the Deshpande Foundation to impact the bottom of the pyramid, 1.1 billion. And I'll talk about it, why bottom of the pyramid, 1.1 billion. Desh and Jayashree have been very, very philanthropic and have spent hundreds of crores basically to transform India in a better place. Next slide. So if you put India's population as a pyramid, as you see, top of the pyramid, there are 200 million people with disposable income. And because they have disposable income, most of the companies, Flipkart, Amazon, Oyo, Ola, Uber, Zomato, all they are solving the problems of top 200 million people. Okay, whoever is not able to see the slides, look for name Muzammil and click on that. So you can see Muzammil has sharing the slides and you'll be able to see the slides from him. So top of the pyramid, Muzammil,
Yes, Vivek.
yeah, I think some of the people are not able to see the slides because they are looking for my name, right? So let me try once more. If I can share that and see if it works. You can remove the presentation. Okay. Now visible. Perfect. So when I'm sharing the bottom of the pyramid, top of the pyramid, we have 200 million people who have disposable income. So all the startup are looking at solving most of the startup are solving the problems of top of the pyramid, 200 million people, because there is money to make from there. Okay, and top of the pyramid problems are complex problems. How can I get of hot food to the customer in 15 minutes in the Bangalore traffic? But bottom of the pyramid have simple problems, but very critical problem like, can I get food tomorrow? For some of the bottom of the pyramid people focus is, can I take care of health problem for my family? Can I get water for 12 months in a year, clean drinking water? So these are problems are there. And biggest thing is startups are not able to solve the problems because there's no money to make from the bottom of the pyramid. So Gururaj Deshpande, he said that top of the pyramid, you get good talent, good funds, and great ideas. If you can bring this good talent, good ideas, and great funds to the bottom of the pyramid and solve the problems, you can actually make a big difference to the bottom of the pyramid, 1.1 billion. And I'll give examples of that as I go along, and I'll go fast on the slides. So Deshpande Foundation is working in 4 areas: agriculture initiative, education and skilling, entrepreneurship, and micro entrepreneurs, who are the karigars, craftsmen who sell their small goods and make their livelihood. In agriculture initiative, we are working on 3 areas: farm ponds. If the farmer who is on rain-fed farmer, they generally create 1 crop, but if you give them the farm pond, they can make 2 crops, so double their income. Farmer producer organization is, we have got thousands of farmers together. They form a company and they buy pesticides, seeds, fertilizers at a very low cost, and they actually kind of sell the products at higher cost because they are got an aggregation. So they get a power of negotiation. So that's what we're doing the farmers. So farmers, we have touched 70,000 plus farmers, 100 plus crores extra income has been generated for the farmers in last 10 years. Villages covered are actually 400 plus villages covered, and we have created more than 4,500 ponds. We have doubled or tripled the income for the farmer. Second is edu-skilling. Deshpande Foundation has the biggest residential skilling center in India at Hubli, which can house 1,500 students at a time for skilling them for employment. And we skill them for employment in DET. We skill in the village. So take 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th standard student, teach them confidence, life skills, and English communication, and they become supremely confident and transform their life. And we also have early child education program started, which is called Chaya. And we have 300K square feet land build up space in Hubli, which is the biggest. And 8,000 youth are skilled. 300 companies are getting placement done from this campus. Salaries up to 2 to 3x salaries are being offered to the students, and our placement rate is close to 80% now. Female students are 60% more, so that's a kind of higher number. 28 villages covered for the Skill in Village program. 1,100 students benefited, and increasing English grades of 20%. There are different programs, and one of the program is DIT, which is used. A lot of diploma students join this program, Deshpande IT Fellowship, and they get good salaries and good companies such as TCS and others. So I'll not discuss more on these programs, but there are many programs there. This is the biggest residential campus, biggest entrepreneur development campus in India, startup building. This is around 1 lakh square foot, and there is incubation center. There are startups supported. 80 plus startups are supported. Patents filed by startups are 20 plus patents filed. Wealth created, 60 plus crores of economy, and hours of mentoring is done. Significant mentoring is done. So entrepreneurship, this is the biggest incubation center in India, and that is in Hubli, which is a very rare to happen in Tier 2 city. And last not the least is micro entrepreneurship. We help the karigars, new entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs to earn more money. And we have touched 14,000 micro entrepreneurs till now. 7,000 micro entrepreneurs are trained. Cumulative turnover of around 12 crore generated for them. Credit linkage of 1.83 crore and employment generated 1,000. So this is a kind of a 4 areas where we are working in. And this is one program, lead program. We are thousands of 10,000 plus students have over last 10 years have learned how to do the social work and develop leadership qualities through social work. So why this program is important is leadership, and I'll talk about leadership in a few minutes. So Deshpande Foundation, our values are there: collaboration, CROP. I'll skip that and we'll come to the main discussion on leadership and excellence. So hopefully all are geared up for the talk, and I'll try to make it as inclusive as possible discussion. And I would like all of you to put on the chat box any questions I ask. The first question is, what is leadership? I think which is, I think, very clear. Very difficult to get other people to do things that you want to do. A lot of times as a leader, you want to get something done. But by forcing people, you become dictator. So how do you make sure that people do it of their free own will and for a greater good? That is leadership. So if Vivekananda Swami motivated thousands of youth, lakhs of youth to do something for the country, that is leadership. Subhash Chandra Bose got lakhs of freedom fighter to take arms against British, that is Azad in the Sena, that is leadership. Mahatma Gandhi, without forcing anybody, they got all of them to conduct Ahimsa and Satyagraha, that is leadership. And the leadership is all about getting others to do things which is for a greater good and achieving the greater good. So question is for all of you to put on the chat, open up your chat channel and enter there. How are leaders made? What is the way leaders are made? Leaders are born, leaders are created in situation, or leaders are made. So a lot of good inputs from all of you about leadership. Now the question about out of three options, which option makes sense? Okay, leaders are born, leaders are made, leaders are created. Okay. Okay, so Sudha Reddy talks about all the three and absolutely correct. The leaders are born, that is correct. Leaders are situation created, that is also correct. And leaders are made, also is correct. So fundamentally, all the three options are correct. So I'll give example of leaders are born. There are children who are born with a high intellectual capital and some of the characteristics of patience, who are calm from the childhood, who have patience, who are inquisitive and more inquisitive, more leadership. So that's leadership. But that's very few. Then there are leaders who get created by situation, right? And I'll give situation, one of the greatest situation in the world, right? So Mahatma Gandhi could not earn his enough livelihood in Bombay practice. So he went to South Africa, and in South Africa, he started his practice and they're doing okay. And one day he got pushed out of first class compartment, thrown out of compartment with his luggage. And that's the day he said, I'm going to make sure that in South Africa, Asians are treated same as Britishers. That's when leader was born. So it is a situational leadership. At that situation, he decided that he wants to transform the way Asians are treated in South Africa. So there's a situational leadership. And there are many situational leaders happen. But leaders are created. And somebody talked about Shivaji Maharaj. Shivaji Maharaj's mother, Jizabai, she actually nurtured him right from the childhood to different situations, trained, guided, mentored him through Dadaji Kondge, and he became a great leader. So leadership are created, and a lot of leaders are created. Will you get there is the different institutes in India where they actually the organizations in India which generate great leaders. I would say RSS is one good example. Sevadal, which was when the Congress came out of the Congress independence struggle, that is a great example. So many leaders are getting created, and I would say Narendra Modi ji, who is from the RSS, has been created from the scratch. So all the three options are correct. Many of you had said all the three, so it's correct. So each one of you can be a great leader. I think I want to allow us to understand that leadership is not anything rocket science. It is about developing leadership. You have to feel that you want to have leadership. And as some of the participants are pointing, initiative is very important. If you take initiative, that's where leadership starts getting developed. Yeah.
Vivek, yep, the PPT is not visible. It's off.
Okay, I'll see that. Why? Stop. Yes, it got stopped, I think. So I'll continue, but I'll talk about leadership. So that's the second. Now the third question comes. Now second question comes is excellence. So we all know leadership is situational or born, but leadership is also, most of the leadership is created. Okay. Okay. Leadership is born. Okay. So what happens is that how do leaders get created, right? Leadership is born. There are few children. There are some qualities of leadership which actually are very, very important. One of them is communication, and second is kind of a patience. And some of the kids develop with those qualities, and they are born in the family of leaders. So what happens is that because the whole environment around them is about taking initiative, about culture is about leadership, and leaders get born. So example, I can say about entrepreneurship, right? There are few families where whole culture is about entrepreneurship. So the kid born there generally ends up an entrepreneur. So when the environment and culture is like that, and when you born into that environment and culture, automatically chances of you becoming leader is very high. But that's not too high percentage. Most of the percentage is that leaders are created over time, over decades, over years of practice. And when they practice leadership qualities, they actually kind of get to the next level. So one of the person is saying, I'm not going to debate here. Okay. Okay. So the people are putting their opinions, and I'm giving examples of leaders who are born, who are made situation based and created. So they're not made in classroom. I agree, but they are created through the classroom of life. Okay. Life is what teaches you, and through the life, the leaders get created. But I appreciate a lot of points are coming in, and it's very good. Keep kind of putting the points, and I'll share I think the template was lost somewhere. So I'm going to open up the template. 1 minute. My presentation was blocked because my computer resetted. So that is about leadership. So the best ways to leadership is leadership get created, and who creates it? You create it. And how do you create it? You have a goal, you have a vision, you have a mission. You set that goal. You have an organization working with you. Okay. So you develop the organization, align the common goal, and you work hard towards a leadership. I think and that is what a leadership will involve. Okay, leadership will be created. So second question is, so there are a lot of contradiction people will have. What is leaders are made? So I can give examples of people, students who have actually performed very bad till 10th standard, 12th standard. I'll give my example, right? You have seen the company Sankalp Semiconductor got actually become one of the, not one of the, became biggest company in the world in chip design services, which is a analog chip, electronic chip design services. Now, if chip was I leader right from the beginning? I don't think so. And in 1985, I was in College of Engineering, Pune, and I was outstanding student of the class. By outstanding means I was standing outside the class, and that means basically I was not good at studies at that time. I was not leader. I was more of a student going along. I got a job in my engineering college, final year. Condition was first class. And did I get the first class? No, I didn't get the first class. I lost my job. 3 months out. Okay, and then I joined Videocon. 2 years of working in Videocon, I met an accident. And when I was in the bed for 1.5 months, I had 15 fractures in my hand. My hand is kind of broken. And 1.5 months of introspection, I realized that if I study with interest, I can do much better. Then I left my job, went to lecturership. I was a lecturer in engineering college in Aurangabad. Then I gave my GATE exam, and then I got 98th percentile in GATE exam, joined IIT Kharagpur, passed out from IIT Kharagpur. I was in Texas Instruments, and through multiple leadership experiences, coaching, mentoring, I actually became better leader. And then I started my company when I came back from America in 2005. That's when I started my company, Sankalp Semiconductor. So I don't think I was born leader. I don't think it was created by situation. It was basically I was made through circumstances, my leaders, my mentors, my gurus, who made me a better leader and better human being. So I'm sure all of you, and these are, I would say 80-90% of leaders are made in life through the experiences and through the situations. And I'm sure each one of you can be a great leader if you want to, if you choose to. And only way you have to do is practice leadership every day. Slowly you will become better and better leader. So question is, what is excellence and why excellence? So first of all, many people feel that excellence you have to be best. You don't have to be. It means doing better than what you did yesterday. And why this every day is important? A lot of people think that if I want to innovation, means I create a kind of a patent or a great innovative idea. No, innovation is not about invention, not about patent. Innovation is about doing something better than what you had done earlier, something different, which will help you towards your goal. So what is excellence? Excellence is every day you're taking one step to the next level, improving little bit. And as you go on improving, it helps grow significantly. So there is a formula called compounded interest formula. What it says is every day you improve by 1%, and improving by 1% is easy, right? If you do some job one way, next day you can improve by 1%. Next day you can improve by 1%. If you do 1% improvement over the year, compounded improvement would be 3,700%, which is 37 times in a 1 year. Because there are 365 days there, and every day you are actually improving 1%, and 1% is adding up as a compounded interest. Why excellence is required? Because if you steady flat, if you are doing good work and remain there.
No audio, please, sir. Krish.
Yeah. Go ahead. Any question? Hello? Anybody? Any question was there? Okay. No problem.
No, continue.
Continue. Okay. Okay, great. So please look at the slides presented by Muzammil. Look at Muzammil. Click on his icon and you'll be able to see the slides, because my computer has gone resetted, so I got handed off to him. Okay. So most of the people say, hey, if I'm doing good, why do I need to improve? And I'll take example of a company or organization. If you're doing good flat, but the inflation is going to happen, so cost of your business is going to grow. Challenges are going to come. Others are going to improve. So what happens? You actually could have start going down. So either you go up or go down. There is no way you can be flat. So either you grow or decay. So your choice is in your hand. And I'm sure no one of us want to decay. So growth is the only option. Okay. So growth is life actually. If you are alive, that means you have to grow. Okay. Otherwise you decay. So growth is the only option. Now, best way to grow, people say, is compete. Which is correct, right? You compete with each other, it's amazing growth. But the challenge is, when you compete with each other, lot of times there are three problems happen. One, competition becomes unhealthy and we start hurting each other. Especially within the team, within the organization, we start hurting each other. Second, when the competition is higher, you go faster towards the competition. But when you go towards the competition or on the same level, you saturate slowly. And after, once you grow across it, you flatten out. So your growth actually gets limited. It becomes kind of a saturation. So what is the best way? So competing with self is the best way of competition. And you compete with self, you will constantly grow in a sustainable way. How? Every day if you improve yourself better and better and better and better and better, someday you will become world class, because you are growing and you are competing with yourself. You are not saying I'll be constant. I have done this much is good enough. If you say good enough, it will decay. So the most important thing is saying that, hey, whatever has done is good, amazing, but not good enough. Why? Because I have to improve further. When I go to this level, I say, hey, good, yes, but is good enough? No, get to the next level. So with excellence, you start competing with yourself, keep improving, keep growing, and that continuous improvement is the only way to sustain in any field. And you can hear that out of Fortune 500 companies. 70% companies, imagine 70% companies are not even existing 30 years back. So now companies are getting created and many are dying if they don't grow, if they don't compete excellent, they don't do excellence themselves. They actually, so excellence is the way, and excellence helps in 3 ways. One, it helps you against the challenges, inflation. It second helps against competition. And third, your survival is guaranteed and sustainable when your excellence is there and you're continuously improving. So I would say this is what excellence for me will be. And I'll give few examples of what we are doing in Deshpande Foundation and how it has helped me in my life. There is a question coming again, how leaders are born or not. I'll take that question separate again at the end. Abuzim will take that question, we'll discuss that at the end. Okay. Next slide. So a lot of people say leadership and excellence is just good to have, but why is it required for me? I'm doing good. I'm stable, professionally as well as personally. And I would give a recent example of COVID. During COVID, many businesses which were flat or struggling and did not have innovation and excellence and did not lead have actually gone down. Okay. So data shows 40% of medium and small scale industries have closed down in last 6 months because they were struggling, they didn't have innovation, and the companies who are growing are the companies who are innovating with products, ideas, and that's important for survival in the long run. So when the absolute tough times come, leadership and excellence is what helps you professional as well as personal life. So COVID is a great example. Okay, but in general also, when you become a better leader in the professional life, in personal life, you can use that leadership skills to solve the problems of your family, solve the problems of your community, improve community innovations to kind of make the situation better, and your stature in the society, in the family improves, and you can actually have more happiness in your family and life if you have leadership. I think, and same in professional life, if you are a leader, you get better opportunity, better responsibility, you can make bigger impact. With bigger impact is bigger your growth in your stature, growth in your career, promotion, and bigger responsibility, bigger salary, bigger fame, bigger name. So I think everything improves with that. So leadership and excellence is a hand in hand. You cannot be leader without excellence, and excellence will lead to leadership. So it's kind of both are like a hand in hand together. Next slide, Uzamil. So what is leadership? So this is one I had learned around 35 years back in Texas Instruments, and I've been using that in every organization I work in. Most of the people think that leading organization is leadership, but most people fail to realize that leadership starts with self. And I'll give you an example. See, when you are leading others, leading kind of an organization, you have to motivate people. You have to set goals for them. You have to have them disciplined towards achieving the goal, track them towards goal. Now, if you yourself are not motivated, you yourself don't have a goal and how to set a goal, you yourself don't know how to achieve the goal in disciplined way, how can you teach others? How can you guide others? How can you lead others? So they state there are 4 stages of leadership. First stage is self-leadership. You should be able to be motivated yourself, and I'll talk about details of this self-leadership. Each point I'll discuss separately. Self-leadership, what it means is that, are you able to set your goal yourself? Plan towards goal, execute actions whether you feel like doing or not, not based on emotion, based on what is right for the goal, doing what is helping you achieve the goal and not doing what affects you from doing the goal. Are you able to resolve the conflict when the issue comes, problems come? Are you able to solve the problems to achieve your goals? If you are able to do that, then others will be motivated, inspired by you, and they'll be led by you. You can lead them. That comes leading others. And after leading others, if you are able to lead others, create a team, then you can actually kind of inspire them, motivate them to take them to the next level. That is called leading change. So leading change comes the third. Because if you try to do the change before you lead the others, nobody will listen to you. So leading others is very important. And what is that leading others, we'll talk about in detail. And then leading change. What is the change? Creating innovation, creativity, making the next level change. Like I think today's workshop planned for the teachers. I think this is maybe one of the very rare workshops maybe across, and a lot of people are coming in. This is a leading change. Somebody has put in a lot of efforts. Somebody has put in a lot of kind of planning in the background, preparation, getting speakers to come there, attendance to come there. It's not easy, but that is leading change. And this is one change and multiple changes added up to each other to make it bigger change. And then comes the leading organization. Are we able to create an organization which will last beyond our lifetime, beyond our exit? And that can happen through leading organization to the next level. So these are the 4 areas. Any questions you can put on the chart on leadership, leading self, leading others, leading change, and leading organization, or any excellence. Any questions that they put on the chat, I'll try to answer that. Otherwise, we'll go to the next slide. Muzammil. So what is leading self? If you have to motivate others, you better be motivated yourself. If you're not self-motivated, you cannot be leader, because you'll be always demotivated and waiting for somebody else to motivate you. You cannot lead others. So self-motivation is important. And for self-motivation, having a goal and with the organization goal is very important. So teachers, to become a good teacher could be a goal. And being a good teacher will be aligned to the goal of the organization, the Polytechnic College, where the college will be very, very benefited by that. Okay, sound is not clear, so let me kind of change the position. Is this sound better?
Sir, it's clear. It's clear.
Yeah, can you please repeat the last 30 seconds what you discussed from leading self, because it was...
Yeah, so, sure. See, leading self is most important. Has to be, if you want to lead others, you have to be leading self. Means you should be, if you have to motivate others, you have to be self-motivated. If you're not motivated, how can you motivate others? I think that's the first fundamental thing that we have to learn. Because if you don't motivate others, there is no way you can motivate. So if you are not motivating self, there's no way you'll motivate others. So that's the first most important thing of self-motivation, is to motivate yourself. Okay. Now, for motivating yourself, you can't be motivated, say that, I'm motivated, and then feel motivated. No, it's not. You have to be motivated for doing something, achieving something. So you have to have a goal. If you don't have a goal, sometimes you'll be feeling good based on the chemical reaction in the brain. Sometimes you'll not feel good because of the sleep and everything. But if you get up in the morning and you say, hey, I have to achieve this success. I have to be, for example, for a Polytechnic diploma teacher, I want to be one of the best teacher in CNC machines. I want to be best teacher in electronics. I want to be best teacher in something. That is the most important. Once you have a goal for yourself, which is aligned with the vision of the organization. So Polytechnic College, having an electronic student, teacher, best teacher would be good for a Polytechnic College. So it's very important that your goal is aligned with the organization goal, organization vision. So that every progress of your in the organization is towards your goal. So you are motivated, self-motivated. But just self-motivating, having goal is not enough. Because you need to have discipline to have a plan and work towards the goal. Because sometimes you get up in the morning and you don't feel like doing anything. Okay. So what do? People who are leaders, self-leaders, they'll say, hey, I don't feel like doing something, but I have to go to the college and I have to transform the students. I have taken commitment of students. I have to deliver this lecture and I have to be one of the best teacher I want to be. I have to do what I have to do. So when discipline is not about getting up exactly at 5 o'clock, eating at this time, exercise that time, self-discipline means, do we have discipline to do the right things, to go towards your goal, irrespective of whether you feel like doing it or not that day? That is self-discipline. A lot of times people say, don't have mood today. Okay, and they don't do anything. Someday they have mood, they do 10 times more work and then get tired. But there are some people who are self-disciplined. They say, hey, whether I have mood or not, I have to do this. And when they start doing something towards their goal, they get motivated, they get moved into the mood. So the most important self-discipline is about how do you do things which are helping you towards your goal. Even if you don't feel like doing that day, that is self-discipline. And once that happens, success starts. But that is not enough. Because once you are going towards it, you will feel obstacles. You will feel challenge. You will get challenges. Some others will not support you. Some others will push you back. Maybe situation becomes bad. And again, there is a chance of you saying that, okay, I can't do anything. And that's where the third factor comes into picture. Self-ownership. You have to take ownership of that goal. You say, it doesn't matter. I'm working towards my goal. I want to become best teacher, but I didn't get the proper support from my peers, my management. So be it, no problem. I have to put a goal. I have to become better. I am going to get better and I will take it to next level. I think that's what the most important is. So your job would be to figure out how do you take the ownership of your goal, ownership of your actions, ownership of behavior, and ownership of your progress. And once that happens, you are ready to be a leader to the others. Because you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. And last and the most important is communication. You can do the right things as a leader. You have to learn to be doing right communication, proactive communication. And what does proactive communication mean? You communicating to people what you want to do. Why are you doing it? How are you doing it? And if challenges are there, asking for help from them, that is proactive communication. What is reactive communication? Doing something, it's not working, somebody is not helping you, keeping quiet, and after 2-3 days somebody asks you, hey, why did you do it? Hey, you didn't help me. Hey, you could have told me 3 days back, I would have helped you. So telling after things have happened is a reactive communication, useless, is excuse based. Proactive communication means doing all communication required to achieve cooperation from others to achieve your goal. That is proactive communication. Doing communication as needed to get support from others. That's the self-leadership. And my request to all of you is that please look at your life and see in which situations you are not motivated. Why you are not motivated, and do you have a goal in life? So set a goal, and I'll give you an example of my life. So I told you an example sometime back, 1985. I was in final year of engineering. And what was my goal? Just pass. So when I got a job in final year, I was outstanding student by standing outside the class because there was no goal in my life. So when I got a job, requirement was first class. I set a goal. I did work hard, but I didn't have a habit of setting the goal, achieving the goal. I didn't get the first class. I lost my job. But then when I went through the accident, introspection, and I realized that I want to now go to the IIT, I had to work hard. A second class graduate going to IIT was rare that time. None of my class had got it. But then 1 year, I focused on the goal, and based on my guide, mentor, I stopped many things, TV, movie, non-veg, many things I stopped just to achieve the goal, and then got 99%. Because goal was there, I achieved the success. So what I'm saying is that it is not about that you will actually, one day somebody will come and say, hey, you are a leader and you will achieve anything. It is all inside. And you have to start from inside. Leadership journey starts from self-leadership. And once you are self-leader, then you can create companies, create organizations, and lead organizations. Any questions you can put on the chat box or we go forward. Muzamil, next question. So once you are able to lead yourself, you are capable, you are achieving success in your goals, you are achieving progress in your goals, you yourself will create organization, or your managers, your superiors will see that, hey, you are doing very good in your own setting goal. Why don't you promote this person to next level? And you get a responsibility to lead others. And that is biggest responsibility. Okay. And once you learned, a good point by some of the people who are saying that if you fail in self-leadership, you fail in everything else. So self-leadership is most important for any leadership to emerge from there. If Mahatma Gandhi that day would not have said, he has to change himself first. He was Ahinsavadi. He was Satyavadi. Okay. And then he could motivate others. If you are saying that everybody else has to be Ahimsa, but I will do what I want to do, nobody will listen to him. He himself practiced what he preached. So we have to be self-leader before we go to others. And leading others, three things are there. First is vision. You have to create a vision and goal for a team, for a common team, and align them, everybody, towards the common goal. When more people are aligned, the more chance of that team to succeed, and you will be better leader and you will be successful leader. You have to understand your team. A lot of times people think that understanding team means basically I just have a chit chat with them, take them for a tea, coffee, lunch, and I understood. No. You have to understand each one's strength, weaknesses, likes, dislikes, their issues. That is when you understand each individual and you understand the team. Okay, one question has come. How to retain the self-motivation. So, Muzammil, write down the questions. All these questions we'll discuss at the end.
Yeah, I have noted down.
Okay.
I have noted down all the questions.
Perfect. Then you have to know your team. Okay. You have to know the team, strengths, weaknesses, issues, likes, dislikes. Because if you treat team like a machine, everybody's same, they will not be motivated. Some people like to be connected every day. They would like to talk to you. Some people say, hey, I don't want to talk to you. Give me the task. I will do that. Every week I will come to you and talk to you. There are some people who are extrovert who like talking. Some are introvert who like their space, private space. You don't want to be micromanaged. Some people like guidance every day. Some people say, don't guide me. Tell me what to do. I'll figure out how to get there. So you have to understand everybody's strengths, weaknesses, likes, dislikes, and see how do you use that whole strength, weaknesses, and everything for the achieving the faster goal for the team. I think that's leadership about. Then you plan and achieve the goal with the team by tracking regular progress, achieving, realigning the plan, remaking the plan, and finally, as every time, every team, conflict will come. Conflict will be within the team, amongst the people, amongst you and the people, or it will be external between your team and outside organization, outside teams. And your ability to resolve conflict will help you to become a better leader in leading others. And that's very important. Go to the next slide. And Muzammil, just tell me how much time we have now?
We have time, Vivek.
Okay.
You can go.
So once you are self-motivated, you're a self-leader, then you learn to lead others by setting the goal, common goal, understanding the team, setting the plan based on the strength and weakness of team, building the team, resolving the conflict, achieving the goal. Now you have become a leader who can actually bring the change into the team. That's called leading the change. So there are two ways to look at it. Whether change comes on you or you bring the change. So today, in the COVID times, a lot of organizations were prepared for online. They succeeded like anything because they were preparing for the change long back and they're ready for the change. They brought the change internally. But other people who were not prepared for the change, they did not lead the change. They did not have online presence, online capability. They actually miserably failed in last 6 months. So you have a choice. Change is the only thing that is constant in life. Most of the people don't like change. Most of us don't like change because human brain likes constancy. Okay. Human brain likes constancy, familiarity, and any change, any kind of ambiguity is kind of uncomfortable for the brain. So we resist change. But a true leader actually understands that team has to continuously improve and excellence is the only way to improve. And if excellence you have to do, you have to constantly look at what is going on in the world, what new things are coming, what new things you can create, and bring the change. And how do you bring the change? Understand the best practices, creative thinking, both ways, either look from outside or look within, and bring that change, manage the change in the organization, team, and most important thing is failure is not looked as a problem, but failure, you learn from failures. So you're not afraid of failures. So if you're afraid of failure, you'll stop making changes. You'll say whatever is working, let it work. But if you are not afraid of failure, you'll make the innovation, and some of them will work very well. You'll go to the next level. Some of the failures, we'll learn from it and make it next level. So these are the 4 aspects of leading change. Without leading change, leader is not one who brings constancy. Management is about constancy, but leadership is about making the change, taking it to the next level. Next slide. And I will say the last slide. Maybe I will get a lot of questions after that. Once you have learned to lead the self, leading others, and leading the change, time comes to lead organization. And that's where most of the time you'll get opportunity, promotions, and position to develop organization, because you are doing very good in terms of leading self, leading the change, and leading the others. So for that, you have to develop leaders. Then only you can build up the organization. Otherwise, you will become a single point failure. You have to have mission and vision. You have to have systems and processes defined so that trivial work, the work gets done automatically, easily, lowest cost, best quality, so you can do more innovation and more better things. You have to be strategic in execution. You have to plan strategically. What does strategy means? You cannot solve problem technically, which will create new problems. Like there was a story in long time, a king wanted to kind of get the kingdom. Cobras were too many. There's a talk they talked about this British times, and Britishers didn't like the cobras. They set up a program for giving incentive to all the people who will kill cobras. And every cobra, they used to give some money. And it was going, initially it worked very well.
So sorry for the interruption. Vivek sir will be back in a few minutes. I think there is some technical problem. We will just wait for 1 minute. We will be back.
Sorry, I got disconnected. Muzamil, can you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We can.
Sorry. So I think I would say that I would take from here. Last slide. So Muzamil, take the next slide. So summary is we have to have a self leadership followed by leading others. Without self leadership, which is self motivation, self discipline, self ownership of the goal, and proactive communication, you cannot be a leader. So we start with self, then go to leading others, then change, and then organization. With that in mind, I think Muzamil, I'll take few questions. So one question is constantly coming. Some of you are saying leaders are not born. I think my take is yes. I think that most of leaders are not born. But if they children who are born in leadership families, like children born in entrepreneurial families, because of the culture around, they actually become naturally leader or naturally a macro entrepreneur. So these are the very rare examples of leaders being born. So that is very rare percentage, so let's not discuss about it. The 99% of the cases we can say that leaders are created through life's learnings, life's lessons, through self-motivation, and through the motivation for the doing greater good for others. And leadership comes out of that. And that leadership is what is most of the time applicable for others.
So, Mr. Yogesh K has a question. Can you please suggest any good leader who is self-motivated?
Can you repeat the question?
Can you please suggest any good leader who is self-motivated?
Okay, I would say most of the leaders we are seeing, Narendra Modi, Obama, Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, all they were kind of self-motivated. They had the motivation of themselves. They did not have to be told by somebody else, hey, do this for them. They had their own goals. They set the goal for the country, for the company. Tata, like J.R.D. Tata, was self-motivated. So there are many leaders who are self-motivated. So I don't see a challenge with self-motivation. I would say all the leaders are there because they are self-motivated. Nobody can create leader from outside. It has to be from inside. Good question.
Dr. Usha has a question. Sir, what could be the reason out of these four between Mukesh and Anil Ambani? These four leadership categories.
So I would say, very take personality, difficult, but definitely both of them were born in the entrepreneurship family. So both have the entrepreneurship qualities. One has better than the other. So Mukesh Ambani seems to have better qualities. So he's able to build the organization and maybe make whatever he got from his father, he's able to do 5 to 10 times of that. Whereas Anil Ambani has not been able to make it multiply times more. I think that's so. One is better entrepreneur than the other. And one is better leader than the other, I would say. So definitely Mukesh Ambani seems to be a better leader. Ambani also has his own leadership qualities, but he may be not as great as Ambani. But remember, if he is able to lead the organization, he started so Mukesh Ambani also has Anil Ambani also has he has created entertainment wing of Reliance. He created the mobile wing. It failed. Mobile wing failed later on because of the issues of the licensing. But he was the guy who went into mobile, started new business of mobile. So he had leadership qualities. Maybe they are not, environment was not good enough. Maybe his quality was not sufficient for him to sustain for longer. But I think both of them are definitely better than leader than me in terms of creating bigger organization. Muzamil, next question.
Yeah. Mamta has a question. How self-motivation to be retained?
Wonderful question. It's the best question I would say, because if you are able to do that, then life is always happy. Every day you are motivated in the morning. Nothing can actually demotivate you. Then you are always happy. So there are 4 ways to look at it, but I'll give a step-by-step approach towards it. It has also been a challenge for me. So I'll give you an example how it helped me. So I told you my story long back, and I'm going to give examples from my life because I have been basically kind of a student who was actually below average student, transformed into kind of a topper from IIT Kharagpur and top entrepreneur. Not because I had something great, because of the environment, because of the other things I learned. So I'll give one example of that. So when I decided from Videocon that I have to now go for IIT exam and I have to go to IIT and do MTech from there, nobody supported me. Hundreds of people I talked to, my friends, relatives, uncle, aunties, nephews, everybody said, you continue with your job, give the exam. If you pass, then go to IIT. If you don't pass, continue with the job, because you may not get the job again. But I wanted to leave because I knew that during job, I cannot study. So I said, I will go to the lecturership job where I'll take the subjects which are required for GATE and I'll do both. My job will become my preparation for the GATE. Nobody supported except one person who said, I really want to do it. I said, yes. He said, you have to be motivated always, right? What will you do that? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to be motivated. I'm going to be always charged. He said, tell me 10 things that you like to love to do, eat, or have, which will not help you towards your goal. So some things you are doing, some habits, things, which are not going to help towards your goal, but you like it. Tell me those things. I wrote down. I used to eat non-veg that time, tea, coffee, movies, TV. He said, can you cut down all these things till you achieve the goal? So I said, why? Well, I can tea, coffee, non-veg I'm not wasting time. So I can only stop TV, movie, so that I can spend more time on studies. He said, no, that's not a condition. He said, that is important. More important is remembering your goal. So most of us forget our goal. We set up a goal. So first, most important for motivation is, as we said, set up a goal and be inspired by the goal from inside. Second is, you should not forget the goal. So what this mentor told me, stop this till you achieve the goal. So 1 year, I did not take coffee, non-veg, tea, TV, movie, picnics with the friends, some of the things I used to like, but they're not helping towards the goal. I stopped that, and under second class graduate became actually kind of a 98th percentile from IIT exam. I was in the IIT Kharagpur and topper. So my brain didn't change in the accident. So all of us have enough brain to do anything good once we choose to do that. So nothing special about me. The mentor who made me realize that goal is important, and every day when I say no to tea, no to coffee, no to non-veg, it reminds me that I have goal to achieve. So memory of goal and in front of you every moment is important. If that is there, and if you're fascinated by the goal, that will maintain. That's one. Second thing, how do you remember memory of the goal? You can increase more. You talk to 10 friends. This is my goal, and I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do that. So public announcement of your goal. So people around you ask you a question, why are you doing this if it's not going to help your goal? So that is the third thing. Fourth thing is writing down your goal in a place in front of your table where you see every day, mirror where you see places, so that you are actually kind of, whenever you say something, that goal reminds you of the goal. And once you start doing that, most important is that don't wait for the goal to happen 1 year from now. Every day, every week, have some small successes created, small milestones, and make that success happen. Once you small successes happen, you get motivated, you retain the motivation, and you start continuing towards your goal.
We have a question.
Hopefully that answers your question.
We have a question from Meena. Even if I'm self-motivated, sometimes the environment pulls my confidence back, and how to overcome this?
Beautiful question. So first of all, environment will always not support you. Okay, sometimes it might be opposing your goal. There are two ways to do it. Is it the environment problem or my ability to handle environment? And you have to be very cautious about it, because sometimes your mind plays games with you. So if it is a environment problem, that environment is not going to change, is completely demotivating, it's not aligning with your goal, change the environment. Be in some environment that's going to help your goal. But if you have to be in the same environment, then influence that environment towards your goal. So example, I can give one of my colleague in Textile Instruments. He wanted to become a teacher. And Textile Instruments, his team, he was a software developer. His team, there was another trainer who was there for software training, and he used to train the young students, and any training he used to conduct. And my friend did not have the opportunity to do training, and he used to love to become trainer. So what he did was, he asked his boss. Boss said, no, You have to develop this code, develop the code. That's your responsibility. Then what happened? He was in one of the workshops which I had attended, and through the coach, he realized that every day, evening, he has a personal time, and weekend he has a time. So he started learning new code, new language, and then training the people who are interested during his free time. And his boss didn't have problem because he was doing his work, complete work, and personal time he was training. After 6 months, he realized that this guy, without giving the responsibility, he's doing more work of training. He gave him the responsibility of training. And his official work also became training. And after 5 years, he became one of the best trainers in TI. And then he started his own training institute outside. He joined, actually, he wanted to become a teacher, actually. He started his school, training academy, and then went ahead. So what happens is basically, yes, there are challenges outside. But question is basically, as long as you are sure that this is what you want to do in life, and the goal is clear, keep memory of that. And when your environment kind of pushes you back, remember that no innovation can happen without resistance from the world. If you are going in the direction everybody is supporting it, that is not an innovation. Anything new you do, anything change you do, opposition will be there. And the more the opposition, more your resolve can be faster and think that, hey, this is good, I'm going to do it. And this should kind of help you motivate and such a motivation. So multiple things you can do. First of all, talk to all the people around you, set the goal, make sure that goals you have got a small step towards the goal. And when the environment opposes you, either you influence the environment or you change the environment. Either way you have to go, because without the support of environment or without making the environment part of it, you will not be able to succeed in the long run. So figure out what is the best environment, be in that environment, and that will help you go to.
So we have next question from Sudha. Would you please explain about self-ownership?
Yeah. So I'll give example about my example, how I learned that in a hard way, so that you can get a feel of it, right? So I was in Texas Instruments, and I was made a team leader for one of the project, and I was kind of presenting to my management, saying that this project was about to be delivered today, but we got only one day late because one person called Suresh, one of my colleague, did not deliver his module on time. Okay, he got delayed, and when the meeting was over, my manager called me, and he said that why did you get delayed? I said Suresh did not deliver on time. He asked me the same question 10 times in different ways. Finally, I said, okay, maybe I did not know that he was late. And why did you not know? And all the question came, and final conclusion came that I did not have a clear review with him 5 days before, 2 days before, what stage he is, and because of that I got delayed. So what is lessons learned? He said that lessons learned, I was basically that I was having ownership was put on him. I was not owning it. Okay, I was saying that Suresh did not do his job, so got delayed. So next presentation I said, the problem was I did not have clear dependency planning chalked out, and based on dependency, I did not do a review properly, and that's why we got delayed. Great. My boss said this is a great self-ownership. Next time we got project again, we again got delayed. After 2-3 on-time success, one more success got delayed. And that time what had happened? Everybody delivered on time. We started integrating all the modules, and one of the module was actually not, quality was not good. So everything got delayed. And that time again, can you hear me? I got disconnected for a few seconds.
Yes, we can hear.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So quality was right. So this was obvious, right? And I'm just making it kind of very clear for you to feel that you will go through this kind of situation. I sat with that individual every day with every team members saying that where are we now? Is that delivery happening tomorrow? Everybody said yes. And then we got delivery done, but quality was bad for one of the module, and everything got kind of affected. So in the presentation again I said, hey, Mukund's quality was not good. And that's why this module, when you integrated, we found the problem with the quality and then got delayed by close to 4 days actually. Again, my boss called after the meeting, and this was the last time I learned what is self-ownership. So I did not say, I said initially wrongly, but then I talked to me. At the end of the meeting, I came to conclusion that Rohit was my boss's name. I said, Rohit, I completely agree. I did not have a quality criteria for each module defined. Next time, I will define quality criteria for each module, and only when they meet that quality criteria, we'll be integrating. So this issue is not Mukund. Issue is, as a team leader, I did not have quality criteria. So that's an example. So that made me learn in my life that there is nothing, I cannot grow as a leader if I don't take the ownership myself of my actions, my behavior, and my results. So if I'm responsible for delivering a block, if I say because of Suresh I did not do it, it is not taking ownership. It is actually putting the blame on somebody. When you take ownership, what do? You take accountability and you say, I will do anything to achieve the goal. And when you start doing that, anything right, not wrong, anything right with my values and with my decency in place, social values in place, anything I do to achieve the goal, then there's ownership. And that's the example of self-ownership, that you do not blame others. You do not complain about others. That becomes a self-ownership. So in all aspects, I'll say very all take self-ownership, right? Let's say I'm achieving my goal. I want to become a best trainer in electrical, or I want to become a best teacher of electronics or a CNC machine. And I say, oh, I did not get opportunity to get the machine, CNC machine to work on, or I did not get computer to work on. That is not self-ownership. That is blaming the situation, blaming the environment. Now, if I say, hey, what can I do to get some time for the machine? I try to talk to the lab owner, and lab owner says, no, this is booked for the classes. It's available only after 6 o'clock. So I say, fine, after 6 o'clock, I'll come. And nobody will say no. You have to just put extra request and find the off time. And then that is a person who does that is a self-owner. So you do everything and anything possible within your way to achieve the goal is self-ownership. When you look at the obstacle and stop at the obstacle and say, hey, it's not in my control, then you are not having self-ownership, and that is a transformation. Hopefully that answers your question. You can put on the chat box if it answers.
We have,
otherwise I can explain anything else.
yeah, we have a similar question from Dr. Usha and Meena. The same, one of the similar question. Sir, how leaders are born, and can you explain? And Meena's, Dr. Usha says she has still doubt on how leaders are born.
Okay, so let's say this way, leaders are not born. Okay, let's say, because it's not a debate, right? I would say 99% leaders are created through the experiences of life, and let's focus on those 99%. And if leaders are not born, that's an opinion difference, right? So leave it, no issue at all. I'll completely agree that the focus has to be on what is the most important, and most leaders are actually created through the life experiences and their practice by practicing leadership qualities of vision, setting the goal, aligning with people, understanding people, helping solve people's problem, putting the team together, aligning the team towards the common goal, working towards plan towards the goal, implementing the plan as the track the plan, make the corrective steps as we go along the plan, and make sure that the whole team achieve the goal, give the credit to the team, and take the responsibility or accountability on you. That makes you a great leader, and that is only through life's experience and practice of that. If you practice all of this, you will become a leader. Born leaders are exceptional, and if it doesn't happen, so be it. Doesn't matter. We can't control it anyway. So let's kind of not debate about born leaders or not. Maybe leaders are not born, and your opinion, I respect your opinion. I heard from somebody that some leaders get born in the environment where there's a culture of leadership, and they have got an advantage because everybody around is behaving like a leader. So they just kind of inculcate only leadership qualities. Like, for example, they say somebody who is born in the family of a businessman, the chances of the business rise is much higher. Somebody is born in the teacher's family, is all teachers, father, mother, uncle, auntie, is teacher, chances of kid being teacher is high. That's called born. That is an exceptional, no issue about leadership. So let's not discuss that. Is that okay, guys? Everybody? Okay. Yes, any other question?
Yeah, we have few more questions. So Suresh and Mr. Pai has similar questions. How to improve creative thinking ourselves and in students? One, And can areas like creativity and critical thinking be taught? As you said, leaders have to be creative and critical.
Wonderful, wonderful question. Wonderful question. See, the biggest thing is most students feel that they are not creative. Okay. And many people at the adult, they think I'm not creative. I cannot be. That is actually kind of a myth. We are born with creativity. Human beings, when they're born, they're curious. What is creativity, right? First aspect of creativity is curiousness. Curiosity about how things happen. What is this? How this happens? How this works? Why this works this way? So questioning, right? And that is what our life started actually. All of us used to ask hundreds of questions to our parents, our teachers. But as the life went along, we were told, hey, don't ask too many questions. You're asking too many questions. That is one thing that started happening. So many of kids stopped asking questions because they were listening to the parents or adults saying that don't ask too many questions. Over time, they started getting a feeling from the world that students who have answers are called smart students and students who have questions are dumb students. So they started thinking that I need to give answers instead of asking questions. And that's where the questioning started again reducing and curiosity started reducing. And finally, many of us basically got into jobs, colleges, schools where getting mark was important, understanding and deeper understanding and synthesis or creativity was not given importance, and marks were not dependent on creativity, they're dependent on memorization where creativity is not required, and that's where creativity got lost. So it's always there. We all have creativity, it has to be flamed. So how do you start with students? So it is a good answer why it is not there. But most of will say, yeah, I understand why it is not there. How do I get the creativity sparked in student? So first is you as a teacher have to basically, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Vivek, we can hear.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so some disturbance came. So I was just confirming because sometimes I get disconnected. Sorry for the bandwidth problem. It was good bandwidth, but suddenly it's going to start flaky today. So the most important thing is curiosity. How to develop the curiosity? So we can actually students, we can give them questions which actually make them think. So for example, leaders are made, born, or this. I'm sure all of you are thinking. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just the ability to think, what does that born means? What does that situational leadership means? What does that bad leadership means? Now, whether the answer is correct, no important. Important is has thinking process started. So first requirement for the teacher is to ask question, which will actually make students think. And that I do a separate workshop, and I'm willing to do that workshop. I've done it maybe 40, 50 times a workshop. I run that with the students, is asking questions. So I'll give few questions to you now. Simple questions, which you may not have thought about it. May have thought about it. You put water on the cloth, it becomes dark color. Why does it become dark color? Fan, air comes down. Why doesn't it go up? What should you do to the fan so that air goes up? Okay. What are the two ways you can make the fan air go up? When the soap is there, any color soap is there, color is actually white always. Okay. Why white color comes always for the foam? But soap is different color. When you put water on the, when you're taking a bath on the bathroom, it is a flat, all surface area is covered. But after some time, why do puddle get formed? Gravity should be pulling the water down. So they should be actually flat on the ground first.
Muzamil, can you hear me?
Yes,
Uh,
I can
so
hear you. So
the- yeah.
So give me some time, 2 minutes, 1 or 2 minutes. We'll be back.
Sure, no problem.
Mr. Vivek will be back in a couple of minutes. So please be with us. By the time you can just put your questions in the chat box, I'll note down. So once he's back, we can ask the questions. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, Muzamil.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, you can put it in the chat box. Okay. So but when he'll be back, we'll ask the questions. So
Yeah, okay, no problem.
yeah,
Dear
we are getting back in some time.
it seems that there is a technical problem from Vivek's
Yeah.
side. Let's wait for some time, and I would like to request all of you to put the questions in the chat box, please.
So we have some technical issue. We are resolving it. We'll be back in a few seconds or 1 minute or 2 minutes. Okay. You can please text your questions in the chat box.
Hey, sorry, there is a problem with my bandwidth network. Somehow it is kind of losing out today. Very, very sorry for the inconvenience caused.
So we have a question.
Wait, Jamil. Vivek, you're talking about asking questions to students. So we'll begin with that.
So I'll give you example. I think I did this experiment many times. So I'll tell you all. I'll take an example of this cloth. If you have to get the answers from the students. Once we start getting answers from students, I tried with my son's school, daughter's school when I came to Bangalore, Hubli, because I had enough time on Saturday, Sunday. Unlike in Bangalore, I never used to get time. I came back from US in 2005 in Bangalore for 2 years, then came to Hubli, and last 15 years I'm in Hubli. So I'll give one example so that you can understand how to ask questions. This is the most important art I have learned in last 15 years. So let's take example of water on a cloth. It becomes dark color. Or a badminton shuttle, if you hit it, it turns around. A lot of people don't have the real answer. And this example I'll give you. So water, so I asked my son and as well as son's school, I used to ask every question. Water on the cloth, why is it in dark color? So kids will say this reason, that reason. I'd say first of all, dark color means what? So students will say less light. So what happens to other light? So they say other light is not coming towards the eyes. The light is reflected from the cloth, reflected towards the eyes, less light comes. So where does the extra light go? So some of them will say it's absorbed by the cloth. Some of them will say it goes through the cloth. Some of them say it will kind of go to some other direction by scattering. So 3 options are there, they'll say. Then I'll ask them, let's look at eliminating the options. So if it goes through the cloth, what does it mean? They'll say it becomes translucent, transparent, little bit transparent. I say, have you seen any cloth? When it's dry, it is kind of opaque. And when it's wet, it becomes transparent. They said, yes, white cloth, sari, when it becomes wet, it becomes transparent. So they say, okay, that means when cloth becomes dark, wet, it becomes slightly transparent. And when it becomes transparent, light passes through it. So less light is reflected. So the wet portion becomes darker. Then I ask a question, hey, why does light pass through the cloth when it's wet? Then they'll say, cloth is made up of what? Threads. When you put the water on the thread, what happens? Some say it expands, some say compresses. Then they say, when you put a thread through the needle, what do? We wet it. That means when you put water on the thread becomes compressed. Then gap is created. If gap is created, what is there in the gap? There is a water. Then what light falls on the water, what will happen? It will pass through the cloth. So these are the many questions we can ask. You will realize that students will learn how to ask question, and once they know how to ask question, innovation will start, curiosity will start, and automatically creativity will become better. So I'll leave at that question. Any other question, Muzammil? We have last end of time now. Another 5 minutes maybe. 3 minutes. Okay, last question.
Yes, Vivek sir, this is Apramaya from Bangalore.
Yeah, go ahead, Apramaya.
It's a fantastic session, sir. I just want to congratulate you. And we can notice that leadership and excellence is a vast topic you cannot cover within 1 hour, but you managed it really well, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
My question is, when being a leader, when you are leading from the front, there may be some internal agencies which will pull you back. And how to manage that internal agencies to stop the things that you can understand that when you are leading from the front, there are so many internal agencies which belongs to our team itself. They want to pull us back.
Sure. No,
that time how we have to react and how we have to lead it from the front, sir. Thank you very much.
Apramaya, very good question. I'll answer this question, and after that we'll close the session. Okay. So,
Done, sir. Thank you.
So first question I think is, whenever there are people, if there are 10 people in, let's say 100% team members, if they are all aligned towards your goal, they will not pull you back. Okay. But it's impossible to align everybody towards the goal, because we are all human beings. They are also human beings. There are diverse people, different ideas. How do we align? If you can get 80% people aligned, they will actually kind of pull the ship. 20% will get aligned. The problem comes when we don't have complete alignment with the team. At least 60% plus people are not aligned. So first job you have to see is that, who are the influencing people in the team? Every team has influencing members, 2 or 3. Make sure that they are all aligned towards the goal, and keep them connected, keep them talking, keep them involved, so they know that success of the team is their success also. If team fails, they will fail. If all of them realize that way, that's the first step you are doing towards aligning people towards a common team. Now, once that happens, whenever there is somebody doing, pulling back, right? Don't question people's intention. If you say that, hey, you are trying to pull the organization back, they will not agree and there'll be fight. So what you do is basically, hey, we are going towards north, but you are pulling towards east. Example could be somebody saying, hey, we are agreed on this, and somebody says now last moment, hey, we need to discuss why should we do this, right? That's a question that comes up, but that is pulling back. At that time, you can say, hey, I know that you want to, so always say a statement communication such as a leader, like self-leader, right? You are motivated, you want others to be motivated. You say, hey, our goal is to go towards this direction. We had agreed that we'll do this about 2 months back. Now you are asking this, challenging this. If we discuss now, we'll get delayed by another 2 months. Do you want to delay by 2 months? Or we say, what is the majority feeling now? Let's do that today, and we'll discuss after this task is accomplished. 90% time, when we question people's action, not the intention, people support you. So you tell them that I want you to succeed. You want the team to succeed. Great, no problem. But your action now is not going to help us achieve the goal today, because we will get a discussion and action will not happen. Can we act first? 99% time you will not have a problem, because everybody in the team who is aligned will say, yes, let's do that. But if you don't bring the issues on the table transparently, without questioning people, only questioning behavior, what will happen is basically all this pulling down will be internal, and you will be trouble to make it happen. So make sure that, first of all, get at least 60 to 70% people aligned. Second, most influential people in the team, talk to them one-on-one. Make sure that they understand that their success depends, you are for their success and team success. You are not trying to do for yourself, it is for the team. And when they understand, influencing people understand, most team members understand, you will see that your resistance from the team pulling back will be as low as possible. And when it happens, accept it. Challenges will be there. Learn how to kind of deal with those challenges, solve the problems at that moment by talking to everybody and making sure that everybody is aligned on the common goal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And we'll stop this today. And very sincere apologies for flaky bandwidth today. Very, very sorry. And maybe next time I need to do it from the better place with a duplicate bandwidth. Thank you.
Muzammil, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Right.
Hello.
Hello. Muzammil?
Yes, we can hear.
Yeah. I want to thank Vivek sir and entire Deshpande Foundation team for accepting our invitation and delivering this very insightful session on leadership and excellence. On behalf of Government Polytechnic Harapalli, principal and staff, and on behalf of all the participants, would like to extend a sincere thanks to Vivek sir personally. And I was happy to see that we were joined by P.N. Nayak sir, Vanigeti sir, and you also. Thanks to all the team members of Deshpande Foundation. And thank you very much. We look forward to receive valuable guidance and solutions in the near future. Thanks to Deshpande Foundation. And now I have a request to participants. Please have a nice lunch and join back at 2:30. Thank you, all.
Thank you.
Sound good. Sound good. Hello.